We're starting this one with a laugh attack as well.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is the Three Strangers podcast. I'm your host, Ryan.
I'm Nick.
I'm Bill.
And we all like to watch horror movies.
Oh yeah.
We're here with our audio engineer. The computer is fixed, so we are back. Thank the Lord. We've been missing you guys. Skippy, we are so happy to have you back. We love you. We love you being here. We're excited for you to start producing them content. I know we were talking before the podcast started, and you were saying how you're going to do some top 10, top 5 videos, stuff with Assassin's Creed, stuff with The Mandalorian. So everyone else, be on the lookout for that. He's still making music too, and he's coming out with merch. Thank you to Nick for composing our intro, and thank you to Sam, our good friend, which we will get on the podcast at some point. I have been in discussion with him. I do know the main idea of that episode, just planning it out.
We could do like soundtrack. Oh, sorry, I'm just totally thinking out loud. That would be a good horror soundtrack with him.
Well, I mean, I don't want to fully spoil it, but you are definitely.
All right.
You're definitely in the right mind.
Way to go, Nick.
But you know, I like to switch things up. I don't tell you everything, so there is a little game that I have planned with that episode that I won't say. But I think that's all the introductions that we need. So how are you guys doing? I know we were talking about the snowstorm and how it just hit everybody like a truck.
Gosh.
Oh, yep.
I just hope everybody out there that's listening is okay. I know that was pretty brutal. Like, really the first one of the season, first big snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
Winter 2020 to 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you guys are okay, right? For the most part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. For the most part. Okay. Debatable.
Okay.
Always debatable.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, of course, sorry that there's been no podcast the last 2 weeks. I try to make up at least one of them by reviewing Pokemon XY and XYZ, which if you haven't checked that out, check it out. Because I literally told them we're going to re-record this. You have to watch it because it is so good.
Ryan's up here. For the lack of horror movies, I decided to put out a video.
Horrifying in its own right. Peter would argue, right, Ryan?
It's true. You know what's really funny though? There was an episode. So there's a whole. We're going off the rails already. I love it.
Oh man.
There's an episode dedicated to videos, of trainers with their Pokemon. And it's called Pokevision.
Okay.
And they make a Steven Spielberg reference in the episode that I was watching. They literally dressed up Meowth as Steven Spielberg. And he says he's a Spiel Meowth or something like that. And I'm like,
that's not where I thought you were going.
I thought he was going to be in the movies. I was like, what is happening right now?
That's funny.
I was expecting Meowth and a bicycle. And I don't know, Jesse takes off in it or something. That's what I was expecting.
They do have a haunted house episode where
really look at that crossover.
There was a horror. There's 2 horror episodes. They're the scary ones. So I did have my chills and thrills with it. But all right, we're jumping from Pokemon. We're going back.
We're really
hard transitioning now.
We're transitioning back. So. Basically this episode is going to be a makeup kind of an episode that we already recorded but lost when files got corrupted because of scammers and stuff like that. So we're doing overrated, underrated again, and we are still here. We're going to try our best to not recreate, make this new, make stuff genuine again. So you'll kind of see once we get to specific areas, but with We Are Still Here, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So
we're just gonna brush through. We Are Still Here is a movie we all came upon. Ryan found it first, and we decided to watch it. And very good cover art for a movie these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best part about it.
Debatably the best part about it.
Sadly, I agree.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
good.
I mean,
Really good.
it was a movie was kind of all over the place. You think it's going to be a paranormal movie, and then it turns into a home invasion movie very quickly, and then it very quickly turns into a slasher movie. So it just felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my big thing with it is that I think it's like shot composition and like all these like factors, like cinematography and stuff. It all works really well. But I think the movie really suffered from a lack of focus.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't suffer from a lack of focus in visual design, more just like story, and some of the dialogue was questionable at times. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but you always know your dialogue is bad when it feels like it was written by a writer, and it doesn't feel like it was two people talking back and forth. Like if it's one person talking to another person, like in their own head, that's when it falls apart for me.
And I think you really saw it when you could see that, like, when the actor, the actress wasn't the best. So, like, with Barbara Crampton, I've always felt like her lines very good. She did them very well. But with characters like May and Jacob, who are, like, the friend characters who end up, like, coming in the movie, like, halfway through, some of their lines were very strange. It didn't always work. But they're not bad actresses, like, per se. It was just bad writing.
Bad writing, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They try to do what they had given to them, but their scenes were just very awkward.
Mm-hmm. I do want to say about positives though, because there are a lot of good things about this movie. I think.
We always just shit on it, and then we're okay. Come back. Yeah.
So like we already said, the cover art is amazing, but like the cinematography is spectacular in this movie. I really really liked it. I think once we got more towards the end, there was a few weird shots that I was like, oh, that didn't work the best. But a lot of it, I was like, wow. Like, just like looking at like, basically it's just a snowy landscape on a house. You can't really, it's not like, oh, this isn't like, how could this be beautiful? But yet when you're watching the movie, it's like, wow, that was a fantastic shot, like, of this house. So I thought that was good. The blood and gore effects, like, you don't expect them, but oh my god, do they show up, and they're fantastic.
They do.
Really?
If it's not the cover art that's the best thing, it's definitely the blood and gore effects.
The makeup, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, and the character design of our main antagonist, being the Dagmar family.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved how they flipped like preconceived like notions on their head. Like when you think of ghosts, you think of cold, like, like, oh, I think someone just like walked on my grave, stuff like that. But in this movie, you're very hot. When a ghost is near you, you get very hot. So I liked how they were doing little tiny things like that to switch it up, to put the genre on its head.
Yeah. I will say I never found anything too predictable in the movie. It's sort of strange though, because like it's definitely a movie that feels like it was more the product of the 70s or 80s than a movie that thing. Like just like it has a very 70s or 80s plot to it. Like, oh, like, what's wrong with this house? Not Monster House. Not anything like that. We should talk about that movie someday. I have many unkind things to say about it. I don't know. It's alright. But regardless, I don't know. It's like one of those things like where it's like, who is the real villain of the story? Like, we're spoiler. Like we're allowed to spoil.
Oh yeah, but this is gonna be spoiler. Spoiler.
Yeah. Forgot to ask.
Here's your warning right before.
Before we go into the whole thing. Then it's like, okay, like who's really like the victims of this movie? Like the original owners, the Dagmars. I'm so bad with names. Dagmars, like or like the people who killed them, but they weren't like, and it was the townspeople, but it was so long ago. I don't know. It's very interesting because it's like, historical wronging, almost in like the vein of like Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's like, oh well, Freddy Krueger was a bad guy, but he got killed in a very like frontier justice kind of way. So who's the bad guy here? Well, yeah, still Freddy Krueger / the Dagmars, but they make him a little more sympathetic. I don't know. It felt like it had some 80s influences. Yeah.
Well, I don't think the Dagmars were our real, like, I don't think they deserve to have the fate that they had in the movie. Because to my knowledge, they were just there and they ended up dying in the house.
Yeah, they actually end up being kind of like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
You're right.
Play. That's another creative thing that they do where the ghosts are the victims in a sense, which is a really that it was creative with what it did. It just, and I think it was definitely the lack of focus that Ryan was just saying. Like there were glimmers of hope within all those lacks of focus because it was so all over the place. If they had just stuck to that one, maybe one or two besides all of them, it might have been a better movie.
Yeah. So like just like basically wrapping up our pros, cinematography great, makeup effects were really good. Personally, fantastic. I like the switch between the paranormal to the siege kind of flip, but it's definitely unfocused, and that's the issue with that flip because the transition isn't as smooth as you would have wanted it to be. And I think our acting is a pro. Our acting is definitely a pro. The problem was the writing.
Yes.
Yeah. Barbara Crampton is fantastic as Anne in the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
It was like I was thinking about like the thing to start the siege. It was literally like a jump scare because it's like the shot rings out. God, that was such a good it's so effective. I guess that's the word I'm really looking for. Like, I don't love everything that follows after, but it's very like this is a different movie now. Or we're flipping to a different part of this. Yeah.
Yeah, there were very diamond in the rough kind of scenes that happen. So like the girlfriend of May and Jacob's son, Daniela. I wrote the names down this time. Last time we had no names.
You're saying these names. I'm like, yes. Okay. Yeah.
So Daniela, her death was like, oh my God. It was real. I loved her death because there was so much truth to her death because her boyfriend just died and she just sprints out of the house and drives away. And she's like, what the just happened? Like, what is happening?
Right. Yeah. There's that
in
truth.
The car.
Yeah.
Like, cause if you just witness like your boyfriend just get brutally murdered by a ghost, how are you going to react?
How are you going to react? Yeah. You're going to drive away and be like, it would be unbelievable. And the slamming of the car steering wheel and just all of that. Yeah.
Those little moments and then like when she ends up dying because the ghost in the back and then just rips its hand through her stomach. I was like, oh, this happened. But my favorite scene in the whole movie is May's death. When Jacob ends up they try to do like a whole exorcism. Not exorcism, a seance. They try to do a seance to like speak to the to the Dagmars, and he gets possessed, and the Dagmar gets so enraged to what happens to him that he ends up killing Jacob. So May's like, oh no, my husband, and Anne's like, not we gotta dip, we gotta leave. And May's like, bet. So she runs and just opens the door just to get shotgunned right in the face. And just the door opening to like the explosion of like from the shot.
Right.
So
that was her name was May. Yeah, that's what I was literally just talking about. That's funny. I totally forgot that. Yeah.
That was my favorite scene because that was so unexpected and just such a good scare.
Yeah, it was. Perspective.
But we're gonna quickly go on cons because I put a little timer for us and we're running very low already.
Yeah, we discussed cons. I mean, bad writing, bad writing, but good acting. Too unfocused.
And a very not good ending. Did not like the ending.
Yeah.
Mediocre at best. I don't know. Not a lot to say about it, really.
Because they try to set this thing with their son that died. Anne and Paul, our main couple, their story is basically their son died, and they hear the son, and he's like, leave the house, like the entire time during the third act, and then by the end, when everyone's dead, then they stay in the house and they're like, "Oh, hey, Bobby." It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I hate when horror movies try to be cute. They're like, "Oh yeah, like, I'm glad he stayed, endangered your life for me." Or what? Do you have any attachment to
that is such a perfect word to describe. The ending tried to become too cute.
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not for me.
We have hit our timer, so
all right.
I've already, gave my grade in my review, but do you guys want to give like your grade of what you thought you would give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh man.
What, we are still here?
All right, Nick.
Yep.
All right, Nick, you go first.
6.2.
6.2.
Okay.
All right, I will go 6.3 just to outbid you.
Damn. All right.
No, realistically I'd give it like a high like a 6.97 somewhere around there. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I had some critical weakness though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like the reason we decided to review it in the first place is because on Rotten Tomatoes it has a 95%. And YouTube critics were like, this is the best movie to come out of 2015. This is one of the best horror movies to come out. So now I got to ask you, overrated, underrated, or rated correctly?
Oh yeah, it's overrated. I mean, yeah.
For 9.5.
Easy question.
Should have like. Are you sure we watched the same movie? They watched We Are Still Here, right? 9.5, ridiculous. I don't know. I guess you know what it is. It's got critics beat. It's got like critics beat. It's shot well. It has like the oh, everything's okay at the end. It's like a secretly feel good movie. Yeah, it's I'm sure the audience reviews or more hardcore horror fans would definitely disagree with that.
Oh yeah, the audience reviews were definitely more towards it was weird because the audience review felt like they were like, "Oh, this movie is terrible. The acting is atrocious." So, and I think it's because critics rated it so highly that when people watched it, they were disappointed and were like, "Oh, this movie was trash."
Yeah.
Yeah, so now perfect transition time. We came up with our own overrated and underrateds. So what we did to make it genuine, we have our old picks, but I also made us come up with new ones. So basically, for like, a minute to 2 minutes, I'm not going to time this. Just, we'll say our underrated in the episode that got deleted, our overrated. So I'm going to be the one to start. My underrated was the movie Wreck. Fantastic horror movie. For those who know me, that's my second favorite horror movie of all time. I absolutely love it. Probably
to see it.
The best found footage horror movie that's ever came out. I definitely rate it. I think it deserves to be in the top 20 horror movies of all time. And I think it's because a movie that's on there that a lot of people rate on there is my overrated, which was The Blair Witch Project. I do want to preference, like I always say, I don't think The Blair Witch Project is a bad movie.
But when it comes to found footage movie, Wreck is probably better than Blair.
Yeah, I think it basically, I think it does everything that the Blair wanted to do, but does it 10 times better. Nick, I gotta say, I when we were discussing it the last time, and you said like how we were always saying that acting's bad, and you said the girl is pretty good. I do want to say I agree to a point, because I believe when she's crying with their face very close to the camera, that is like probably the best acted part of that entire movie.
Yes, yeah,
but
definitely.
Other than that, oh my god, it's very hard to watch.
I have so many problems with Blair Witch. I gotta save it for another time.
It's really funny because we had a whole 30-minute discussion about the Blair Witch in the episode. It's funny because I feel like we have a little spectrum. So like Belle is on the bottom of like, no, screw the Blair Witch.
I don't think it's that bad. I just think it's very overrated. Yes, I'll agree.
I'm like in the middle, kind of like, oh, it's definitely overrated, but it's not a bad movie. And Nick is like, I really like the Blair Witch.
Yeah, I really like it.
I can't believe how much you like the Blair Witch. You slicker.
And then mine's in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we had a really good conversation with, and I wish, this is an interesting topic to pose and think about for our viewers. Is we think that we came up with this agreement of where you were raised affects what effect a horror movie will have on you. Ryan and Bill were raised in a more woodsy area where they live, and where I wasn't. I was in a very populated area, so that whole concept of being lost in the woods was very effective to me, whereas to them, to you guys, it wasn't effective at all. And so I think that's an important thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's definitely the realism to a movie. I think it wasn't realistic enough for us to where we would be scared of it. Whereas with the movie The Strangers, woodsy kind of, that had more of effect on me because of kind of where I live. But I feel like that movie wouldn't have probably the same effect on you, Nick, because you have houses very close to you. So so it's a little bit different. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, so those were my two picks, and I will say, we will talk about the Blair Witch Project again because we're gonna have a full episode of found footage, the genre, movies. I am so excited for that episode because
I'm like
it's the beginning of a big project for us.
I'm seeing red. I'm seeing red, chomping at the bit to talk about. Oh gosh. Okay, sorry.
All right, Bill, your turn. Oh,
you go.
2 minutes. I did in 2 minutes, I think.
Oh, really? Awesome. Okay.
No, I think it's 4 minutes.
But anyway, so my picks last week, not unsurprisingly, maybe a little surprising. My overrated was Saw.
And we called out Julia the entire time.
Yeah.
I can imagine, the spectacle of Saw. I don't want to talk about it too much. I can imagine at the time that movie would have been pretty amazing. But nowadays, it's just I don't want to sit down and watch it. It's not the least entertaining horror movie I've ever seen, but it's it's like plot hole. It's things don't make sense,
Yeah.
And we can talk about that a whole other time too.
It was a unique concept when it came out, and I think that was the big draw to it.
But it had a very good plot twist.
Yeah,
it still is a very effective plot twist to people who have never seen it. Still, I've watched it with people. I just recently watched it with people who have never seen it before, a month or two ago, and that plot twist, they were like, "What?"
Yeah.
So it's still a very effective plot twist, but I agree. Definitely, it definitely is overrated. Sorry, Julia.
Okay.
I love you. It's overrated.
And my underrated, and I think it's starting to come a bit into its own, but I think everyone should watch this movie. I think it's really good. It's called it's a Netflix acquired film called The Platform, and it's a lot. As much of as it's it is a horror movie, but it's also a very human condition type movie. There's some really unsettling elements about it, though. I don't want to spoil too much, but if eating another person or parts of another person disturbs you, it's definitely not the movie for you, because these people are very hungry. It's basically like a prison, but it's a prison that you check yourself into, and you get rewards. You know what it is? It's sort of like the Hunger Games, where the price to play is so high, but the rewards are what you need in a world where it's very hard to get. I think it's you get like college education or something. If you beat the thing. There's various reasons people enter this platform prison, but it's a great film, in my opinion. Yeah.
Good job.
All right.
Did it in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe I'll cut you guys. So my underrated and overrated. My underrated was this film called Shock from 1977. It's a bit, I don't know, put simply, the plot is a woman who is a widow, mourns the death of her husband with the help of a new neighbor after she moves into a new house. And the new neighbor kind of becomes her, like, really helps her mourn and go through that whole grieving process. And it involves a twist that is really well done. And it's a product of its time, so some of the stuff is pretty corny. Some of the stuff is pretty corny, but not all of it. And it really, I think it should be out there more and talked about more in the sense of movies that focus on just a couple of characters. It really does a lot with what it has. My overrated was The Witch or The Vitch, depending on how you pronounce it, how you look at the cover, whatever. The whole if the people rave about The Witch, and to me, The Witch was horribly boring. It was this very interesting story of a mom who loses her child, and it's very much focused on that. But it's too much enmeshed in people not believing her and accusing her of being a witch, that it just seems a little, I don't know, to me it seems a little corny. And the best acting performance in it is the daughter by far, because of how successfully creepy she tends to be. But the problem is the daughter isn't in it a while. And then for me, the ending, it just wasn't satisfying enough to make up for where the rest of the film lacks. The image of a goat being Satan essentially is, I guess, clever in the satanic world, but it just, to me, just didn't seem to connect too much.
I'll definitely agree that it might not be the most successful horror film, but it's quite the family drama. It's quite the
yes.
family.
It is good. Yeah, it is a good suspenseful movie.
It's definitely a family film. Watch it with your families.
Yeah, we highly recommend it. Three Strangers podcast backed by a Flash Forward. Please watch this.
Oh, we're gonna get canceled because people are gonna watch it and be like,
Cancel.
There were naked people. This isn't a family movie. They lied to us.
There's naked people.
But you did good, Nick. You did good. 3 minutes as well.
3 minutes, really?
Yeah, 3 minutes. No, I agree with basically everything that was said between everybody, including myself. So
I agree with myself.
But yeah, no, Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing. Yeah, she's fantastic.
Sorry, she's in the Queen's Gambit, right?
Yes.
Is she that? Okay, she's the same person. The thing, she's fantastic.
She's in
I was just thinking about her the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Apparently, she's in the New Mutants. I haven't seen it, but yeah,
Wow.
I've heard that it was okay. For a movie that got delayed for over 3 years, it was actually okay.
It did get delayed for 3 years. Yeah.
It just kept on getting delayed and then rewritten and then reshot, and then they were like, "Oh wait, now we have to reshoot this scene because now our actors have grown up and look older now." But all right, time to jump into our new underrated and overrated. And this one we will be having a little bit more discussion with it.
Yeah.
So, all right, Nick.
Yes.
Just went last. You're going to start first this time with your new
overrated.
I'm very excited.
Okay, yeah. So I really had to think about these. I'm gonna just come right out with the overrated. That's pretty controversial, and it's come up earlier in the beginning stages of the podcast before. My overrated is Rosemary's Baby. That's right. I said it before. I'm gonna stick to my arguments. I mean, this IMDb rating is 8 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is 96%. Problem is with this movie is a person I was watching with, him and I, we watched the first hour and a half, got so bored. Granted, it was late at night, but it was always late at night when we're watching horror movies. It was late at night. We paused it to get food or something, and then we realized we were only halfway through the movie, and we realized, holy crap, the whole beginning is the exposition is so slow, and it just the emotional building of the couple that length does not justify the second half of the movie. Second half of the movie is definitely the better half. It's where you see the strongest acting performances. But I would like to argue that one amazing monologue does not make a good movie. While I can praise the "What are you doing, you maniacs" monologue, it just, it doesn't compensate. I think maybe part of the whole devil inside of her plot really. There's that shock scene. I'm afraid to spoil it, but because of how much of a classic it is.
Honestly, I think our underrated, overrated is going to be spoilers.
Yeah, you can go full tilt.
All right.
I'd say.
So the scene where she is essentially raped by the devil himself, with all the other characters of the movie watching her and shaming.
So strange.
It is
spoilers.
It's so weird. It just it was weird. One of those where, yes, it escalates the film, but it doesn't give the film its 90. To me, it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't complete the film for me. That whole plot line. I think it takes way too long. I think it could be half. If it was half the length, I think it would be really good. But it really failed for me.
You know what's interesting?
Go ahead.
So you said Rosemary's Baby has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
We Are Still Here is right behind it with a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. So according to Rotten Tomatoes, they are two very closely related movies, which in a way they are correct. They are both overrated movies.
Yeah.
Well, what year did Rosemary's Baby come out? It was like late 60s, right?
68.
68. You see, my thing is that I think if you saw that in 1968, there's something objectively horrifying about, number one, the devil, having sex with a woman, and she has to carry the devil's baby, and then she thinks she's going crazy, and everyone's telling her that she's going crazy, and that they're trying to hide everything from her, and then the whole baby reveal at the end that's not even a reveal. I can imagine it being very effective because it's sort of do not show but tell. It's telly. It's a very telly movie. It's yes, I'm going to talk to you about this. It's also very claustrophobic. I don't know. I think it has good elements. I would argue that it's not a masterwork of horror. It's a masterwork of suspense. It's not very horrific, though.
Yeah.
It's not very horrific.
Tension.
Yeah.
Definitely tension. Yeah. It's tense in the second half.
Yeah. It plays like a Hitchcock film for me.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I had for a project that I had to do, there's a whole chapter based on horror film scores. And a lot of it discusses Rosemary's Baby and how that movie kind of was in a way so influential to horror after it in terms of of the movie itself, but also in terms of film scores and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Gotta listen to the theme from Rosemary's Baby now.
Yeah. So it's very they take a lot from opera.
Oh yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, they do.
Awesome.
Okay, So my underrated. It in some aspects it's not underrated, but I went to IMDb. Going off the IMDb rating, this movie has 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. So still, up there with all the previous movies that we've talked about so far. But it's only a 6.6 on IMDb and 67% on Metacritic. And that is the movie Hush. On Netflix, the invasion movie, probably one of the most modern invasion movies to this day, and also maybe the most inclusive in a way. For those who don't know, Hush is an invasion film that centers on a deaf woman, and such the strength and unique part of the movie or film is the movie is displayed and the audience perspective is manipulated to be what the deaf woman's perspective is. So all of the sound beginning as soon as it's just her in the house is silent, and you are just experiencing things as she's experiencing things, and all you can hear are like maybe bangs on the window, muted bangs on the window, and gasps and noise of panic around the house, but never never kind of loud screams and gunshots and sudden music bursts. It's nothing like that, and it's I don't know, to me it's so underrated because I think it's the best home invasion movie that's ever been created.
Sorry, Nick. Have you ever seen Home Alone? Sorry, that was really serious. Sorry, that's like destroy you. But no, I agree. I agree with most of the things you're saying. What's it? Yeah, it's really what you see, and I guess that's really the whole point of the movie. I didn't think about it as being like a movie that was like very respectful to, thing. But yeah, it's sort of in a way, I guess the real horror of it is that like, if she wasn't deaf, but he's playing on that deafness. It's very interesting. Yeah, to think about. I didn't think about it in that way. Yeah, you I agree though. What about you, Ryan? How do you feel?
So I want to start first off with the director, Mike Flanagan. I love his work. I don't think Hush is his best work. I like Oculus more than I like Hush. Oculus was such a good movie. I can't say enough about it. But talking about Hush though, so when you said it was probably one of the best home invasion horror movies, I decided to do a quick little Google search on my phone and just look up popular home invasion movies, like to see which ones they're going to come up with. So, and like looking at the list, I kind of agree with you that it's probably one of the better ones. I think I would say personal preference, I like Black Christmas. That technically counts between home invasion / slasher. But pure home invasion is definitely one of the best home invasions because it's so different from anything that we've ever seen. You try to think of like regular home invasions, you're automatically going to think of like The Purge, The Strangers, Don't Breathe, stuff like that. They all follow. They have like their little twist to them, but they all follow basically the same kind of elements of how they're going to try to scare you. Someone's in the house. We're going to hide in this room.
Yeah.
And this one, it's painted in such a different way because because our character is deaf, and like how she tries to communicate with them and how he kind of sees him toys around with her, knowing that she is. And I think the first death that's shown in the movie, when like she's just kind of, I forget, is she writing or is she like jamming out while like making dinner, and he just murders like the neighbor.
Friend gets killed, right?
Yeah.
Like he like looks and is like, she didn't see me or hear that.
Right.
He like kind of taps on the glass. He's like, huh?
And he realizes she can't hear.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Now, I haven't seen it since 2016 when it came out, but there is like he has no vendetta against her. Like he's not like someone that knows her or anything. He's just like, I've come across this woman and I get a sick thrill. He's like a serial killer.
Yeah,
like I get like a sick thrill from this. He's like a psycho killer. Okay, that's interesting because it's very like almost like this sort of like so here's this sick like maniac guy, and here's this woman who would classically be helpless. It's very interesting. It's like kind of like a setup, unless that's like let's just see what happens. It's a good film though. It's a good film for not really not really relying much on narrative, I guess, to say the least.
Yeah.
I didn't think about
it definitely just plays out a cat and mouse game throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
At one point she'll get the edge. At another point he'll get the edge. They do a great job of balancing it and not making it so he's so overpowered or she's overpowered.
Yeah, and there are times. I mean, she's smart in it, which is a nice fresh air. Like because she's deaf, it really gives you an idea of like that the hard of hearing community, the troubles that they have to go through, but also how they've maneuvered around their life and how she has to maneuver around a house to take precautions. Is very how she handles an emergency. Like think about it. A deaf person can't communicate with 911. So that there's that element with it, and I think it's inclusive in that sense, and I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, she's not weak for her disability, and that's a great thing.
Yeah. I love how they paint her as a strong character and make her kind of like make her a hero, basically.
Yeah,
and someone that people in the real world could really like and could. She's a character that you just take a liking to automatically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But all right,
so
Bill, your
Bill.
turn.
It is my turn. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous to present. I hope you guys like my picks. All right. So what are we doing? We're doing. I'll start with Overrated too, unless I don't know, I kind of like to get it out of the way. I'm interested to see what you guys feel about this. My overrated movie is the 2014 critically acclaimed It Follows. It Follows. So it's. I was like, I remember.
Like it sucks. No.
It sucks. So I was like, I'm going to see this movie. I didn't see it in any like theater type setting. I just remember I went over to friends and we watched it together, and I was like, oh, okay, well it was it was good. It was good. Because you heard so many critically acclaimed as this this big horror return to form, and it's all it's so well shot, and it's but once again I think it was really a critic's movie, and that's why they liked it so much. But for us that have digested a lot of horror, I was kind of it took the trope of you have sex in a horror movie and you die.
Yeah.
They put it in this attractive package, and then they started to throw logic out the window. I remember we were talking about the one time, Ryan, where they can't touch you. They can't touch you. The monsters that come from the sex monsters.
The sex having.
The STD monsters. They can't come for you. You can't let them touch you. And they touch the person's hair. It's such bullshit. I don't know. And the worst part about it is that people can barely admit that it's overrated. They're like, it's still pretty good, and I hate it. I don't hate it. That's strong. I hate that people feel the constant need to defend it because it was good at the time. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, Nick?
I don't have too much to say about it because I've only known it. I've only seen scenes and a very descriptive detail from my best friend who has watched it before. I mean, to me, it just seems like what you were saying about that trope of you have sex and die is someone's like, what if that was true? What if it was the sex that killed? movie, and then that's and then that was it. And I think like it's unique, it but unique in a good and bad way, and it suffers poorly towards the end. So that's what I think. I agree with you.
There's so many, like, I was just thinking like what I was gonna say. And like as I was thinking, I'm like, man, there's a lot of weird scenes within this movie. That's like what just happened. So like before I start saying that, I want to say, so I also watched this movie with friends. I can remember it so vividly because I have a video of that day of like something really stupid that is stupid, but it's really funny. But basically, we looked it up and we saw it had 98%. I think it is on Rotten Tomatoes. We were like, oh my god, like let's watch it. So
it has to be good.
It does not deserve a 98%. Yeah, it has to be good.
No.
And then like you get to the first part where our main girl is, she's getting her cheeks clapped by a dude, and then he just chloroforms her. You're like, whoa,
yeah, it's fucked up.
What? And then he just
kind of fucked
into
up.
a wheelchair, and he's like, "This is chasing after you now." And it's just like this naked old lady. You're just like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's just sequences like that. Oh my god. And like nothing happens to this guy after chloroforming this poor girl and then like chucking her to the side of the road. He like drives her to her house, like kicks her out of the car and then drives away.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was like stupid things throughout the movie that bogged down what could have been a very cool idea, because there are decent parts to the movie. Like the beginning is very, very cool. Just this girl running down the street, kind of yelling, looking back, like kind of saying like, "Oh my god, it's following me! Like something's following me!" And like you see like a neighbor just like looking, be like, "What?" And then like to her on the beach, like calling her dad, like crying, saying like, "I'm sorry." And then it goes to the morning, and she's just messed up, and you're like, "Whoa!" Like they did a good job of setting up our monster. Like, oh my god, wait, this thing could be terrifying,
super powerful. Yeah.
And then it just is so anticlimactic and leads to the most anticlimactic, stupid third act I have ever seen of just terrible character choices. That you could say, I know a lot of people defend it, be like, oh, it's realistic because it's like, oh, she's a high schooler or a college girl, so like what could she do? How far could she go? But you're telling me this smart girl, her plan to stop it after seeing that bullets don't affect it is still to shoot it.
You shoot it in a different way.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? I don't know.
Like that, and just the final sequence in general, how they're like, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll have her be in the middle of a pool. We'll plug in a bunch of electronics and put it around the pool. And we'll wait for the monster to jump into the pool to go after her, and then we'll throw the electronics in. Like, what? And our monster walks in, looks, and is like, nah. It just takes the electronics, just starts chucking it at her. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And just ends terribly.
Yeah.
It's like the chance of success for that plan was so low, and the chance of accidentally killing Jamie, right? That's her name. Accidentally killing her was so high. I don't know. Maybe it is very high school brain. When you think of the entire movie in the high school realm, it actually becomes a much better film. That's probably a bad thing. Yeah, probably a bad thing. So.
Yeah, in the high school realm, it's very much like, okay, kids, don't have sex. Abstinence is the answer.
I just can't get over them doing it and her just like kind of like saying there, just like, oh, that was so much fun, and then just getting instantly chloroformed.
Like, it's so crazy because it's zero. He's like it's so instant, and then I don't know. He drives her home, and it's like, yeah, just so you know, there's gonna be like a lot of like scary shit, like following after you. Don't contact me. It's like.
Yeah, don't contact me. Don't call my house again. I'm not going to go to prom with you. Like,
right.
False identity. False identity.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right, underrated.
So we can all agree. Okay. All right. Underrated. This is probably not a. What? Why? Why? What do you think?
I'm just laughing about It Follows.
Okay. What's it? My underrated film of the year. Fred Claus 2. It's very horrific, guys. No, I don't know. Honestly, the idea of you killing Santa Claus and then you have to become Santa Claus, that's Santa. That's Fred. Wait, am I getting my
Santa
movies
Claus?
mixed up?
The Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. Yeah, that's
okay.
Like, you have to kill. That could easily be a horror movie.
Yeah.
Accidentally horrific. Yeah.
Like you just murdered
but anyway.
Santa Claus in front of your child.
You killed him.
You killed him. And it's like, oh yeah, just so you know, because you killed
My
you
dad
must become Santa
murder.
Claus.
Dang it!
It's like, okay, where is it going? Sorry, that was a huge tangent. That's most unintentional.
Before you continue, I watched it recently, and you have no idea how badly I wanted those little elves just to like headshot people, like like when he's in the prison. And like they have to get him out. I just pictured them just running up and just headshotting the guard. Like we have to make sure they don't know that Santa, like they can't see us, so we have to kill him.
It's Tim Curry, right? Tim Curry is the Santa Claus.
Curry, Tim Allen.
No, Tim Allen.
Shit. I do it all the time. You guys have to remember that time that I got Jodie Foster mixed up with what's her face?
Actually, Santa Claus is played by Meatloaf.
Oh my God! Make it stop. What were we talking about?
Underrated.
My underrated film. I literally feel like I'm like losing IQ points as we keep talking about the Santa Claus. It's really scaring the shit out of me. But I guess I'm the one with low IQ if I can't even remember that it was Tim Allen, not Tim Curry. Yeah, that would be truly horrific. Anyway, I digress. My underrated film is a 1990. I'm gonna have to look it up. I think it's 1995, 1996. I should have looked it up. Classic, Parents. Have you guys seen this film? Have you guys seen this film at all? It's not familiar with you guys. So I remember I was really struggling to come up with another underrated film, and I was just like, "Oh, what the hell not?" And I literally typed in most underrated horror films into Google, and it had this list of like the Roger Ebert blog of like most underrated films, and I looked at this like list, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I freaking loved it." So basically, Dennis Quaid, or is it Randy Quaid? This is embarrassing. I'm gonna say it's Randy Quaid. It is Randy Quaid, right? Okay, Randy Quaid plays a father who has a son, and over the course of the film,
plays a father who has a son.
Over the course of the film, the son slowly realizes that both of his parents are cannibals. And I
have heard about this.
Yeah, it's decently known. It's decently known.
Mm-hmm.
But the way is that the whole thing about it is that it's ultra dark comedy. It's like
really
incredibly dark. It's almost like the darkest comedic film I've ever seen. It is horrific. Yes, actually, very similar to Reanimator. Man, I have like an association with those kind of movies, I guess. But the big thing is that they play on this a lot. That it's like when you're a kid, you really trust your parents.
Yeah.
And then you start to see little slip ups.
Yeah.
Where like they're just doing weird stuff. Because the thing is that he steals bodies from the morgue where he works.
Right.
The father does.
Yep.
And he's like this like chemical guy, like works on like different kind of chemicals, and the reason that there's a thing there, he's like embalming chemicals and stuff, and it's just this whole weird thing, like people, it's that kind of like, have you guys ever seen Pleasantville? Tobey Maguire.
Yep. Oh yes, good movie.
Yeah.
Yes, good movie. Where people it's like 50s suburbia. People don't act like how people actually act.
Yeah.
Like it sort of pervades the entire movie. Like it's like one of my favorite lines in the film is that every single night for dinner they eat leftovers. And like it's so weird because it doesn't quite look like anything, but it's human meat.
Oh man.
And the son looks at the father. The son looks at the father and says, "What was this before it was leftovers?" And then he looks at him and says, "Leftovers to be." And just something I want that on like a poster or something, but like just something about it. Everybody looks so good, and
oh my god,
like he catches his parents carving up a body, and it's a metaphor for sex, and it's just like whole thing like where it's fantastic. Like if you I highly recommend you guys see this film. This creepiness pervades it, but it's not funny. But it's definitely not everyone's sense of humor, I guess. That is my final critique. Long-winded.
All right.
Okay.
All
right. Well, we're up to me now.
Yeah, Brian. Yours.
So we have a trend now of we're saying our overrated first. So I'll say my overrated first too. So originally it was funny because we kind of discussed a little bit beforehand what we were going to say. And it turns out Bill and I had the same overrated, which was It Follows. So.
Oh,
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. So, I was like, all right, I have my backup. Like, I was going to go with this and then remembered It Follows. So then I was going to do It Follows.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know what? I'll start with my underrated because it makes more sense going that way. So my underrated is Let the Right One In. Or Laut den Rate Komain. I love this movie. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's the best vampire horror movie that's ever been made. Probably the best vampire movie ever to be made.
Well, Nosferatu.
Better than Nosferatu.
Oh.
Better than Nosferatu.
I haven't seen either, so
So it's funny because when I was thinking of an overrated, just to go back to that quickly, I was like, An Interview with a Vampire. And I was like, but is An Interview with the Vampire overrated? And I decided to watch all of An Interview with the Vampire again. To which I was like, no, it's a very good movie. It's definitely not overrated. So I'll say my overrated after I kind of explain why Let the Right One In is my underrated. The most basic reason it's my underrated is because no one has ever heard of it. Yeah, and it's because it's in a different language. But it's not in Spanish because I feel like a lot of people usually know if a Spanish horror movie more so. This one's in Swedish. So a lot less known. So it was originally a book, and then it became a movie, and then it became an American remake, which the American remake is not that good. Although it has a lot of people that famous actors in it.
Yeah. It's a good cast.
It has Chloe Grace Moretz as our main role, which I will say she's not bad. And
I love Chloe Grace Moretz. I'm already there. Speak no further. Speak no further.
One of the better parts of it. The dad from oh my god, from Step Brothers, he's in it.
No way.
Oh,
yeah,
crazy.
He's amazing.
Okay.
Richard something, I forget his actual name.
Yeah.
Clay from 13 Reasons Why. He's in the American remake.
All right. Okay, why is he there?
And he's the bully in it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
It does not work, but yeah, it's not the best movie. Okay. So going back to Let the Right One In.
Intimidating.
So for those who don't know, it's basically about this 12-year-old boy named Oscar, and he befriends this girl named Ili, and he ends up kind of liking her a little bit. And it's a horror romance movie, which is such a weird like blend of like genres,
Hmm.
but it works so well. Like you completely feel their relationship, you see it grow. It just amazing acting, because it is kids acting, like 12-year-old kids acting in the movie. They were so amazing. Cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. Our gore, although there's very little of it, very good. The score was fantastic. Did not expect it, and the plot's amazing. Like I only have like the smallest little con with the movie, and it's funny enough because I think the American remake does good with the con, like makes what was a con a pro. There's a very weird character in the movie, and he does stuff that it's like, how does he know this? Like it's just a random guy. But in Let Me In, they changed that character to become a cop, so it makes more sense to how he could have information to stuff. But it doesn't work well. Like it wouldn't work well. It doesn't work as well in the original because there's like a scene with that guy and the kids are like, whoa, like who the is this? With the cop character, they kind of know who it is. So it's very weird, like how it became a pro kind of in the American remake, but still probably wouldn't be in the original. But that's really like the only part that I don't like about it. Like I gave this movie a 10 out of 10. Like
Wow.
it's fantastic. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you guys watch it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
absolutely
it has been on
love
my
it.
list.
It's
been on my
100%
list,
the best vampire movie that's been made. 100%. So going into my overrated. So this one we could talk about because I know at least maybe one of you have seen it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Nick, but I gotta talk crap about it again. And it's Hostel.
Oh. Oh, it's Hostel.
Oh no.
So
it's like amped up sauce.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
No, don't apologize. It's I know it's a terrible movie. I just know it's a disgusting movie.
It's really funny because it was for the
gross.
Wheel of Horror, Nick, that
I recommended
that I watched it.
Yeah.
And I know you did because you know I don't like that type of movie. Yeah, and I was like, I have to freaking watch it. I was like, this freaking guy, this guy over here. And I watched it and I was like, wow. Like it's not bad, but like it's not that great. But then you look at like list of like the best movies from like 2000s, 2010s, it's on there.
Always on there.
Very high up. And it's like, no. it doesn't no. There's cool parts to it, which I can't deny. I think our director Eli Roth is competent behind the camera. Okay. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I think that our gore effects are disgusting, and that's really about it.
It's shot well. The gore is shot well.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of less is more, which I didn't really expect. They do a lot with sound, and it's very effective. But the unfortunate part about it is one of our main characters, Oli, I forget how. They kill him off screen, and it's like, oh, he was a main character. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, you think
because it's very sudden. Because like, oh, where is he? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Let's call him. And then it just goes to him, and his head's cut off, and you're like, oh. And then like Josh is our main character, and then they kill him off, and you're like, so you're setting up Josh to be, and now Paxton is, but we know the least about Paxton, and he's probably the least compelling out of everyone.
Yeah.
It's like a losing game, and you don't care as much because the main character is killed quickly. It's very similar to The Evil Dead almost, or comparable to The Evil Dead, where you're never really sure who the main character is until you see who survives.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But like in my book from like when I reviewed it, I have my cons written out in an all like I literally wrote it in pencil, all caps, characters.
Yeah.
And right next to that, acting. Like I felt the need to separate the two. Our acting is not good. And like
Yeah.
There's I have to say it's a very cool premise, and I feel very bad for what this movie did, because I think it's where does it take place? Is it Slovakia that it takes place?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
It's either
Slovakia.
Slovakia or Slovenia. And unfortunately, after this movie came out, tourist numbers like plummeted. Like no one was touring it anymore because of the film.
It's in the Netherlands.
Oh, Netherlands. Oh, yeah.
No, that's where they start off, and then they go somewhere.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yes, you're absolutely right.
That's all the same region.
Yeah.
But it's so unfortunate that happened. I feel very bad that because apparently like the country kind of depended on traveler economy, and like the economy
well, now there's legal weed over
there. Now there's legal
don't
weed
worry
in
about
New Jersey.
Oh crap! We don't need to go there anymore.
But
I think my thing, Well, I was just gonna say, I think Hostel's biggest strength is its concept. Not in like the terms of like, oh boy, like you're gonna go to another country and you're gonna instant like. There's just something like, like you just go out of country, you're in some place you don't know, and then have you guys seen Green Room? You guys know anything about that movie?
Green Room, you said?
Yes. Very similar. Very similar movies.
Just you mess up in a foreign country and then you're like done. You know, like you kind of disappear. You know, like the idea of it. And I mean, I think everybody like when like it was actually going on, like people like waking up in like dumpsters with like kidneys missing and stuff. That kind of plays into this weird fear that like will there be justice for you in like another country and stuff like that. I think Hostel borders on xenophobia. You actually heard that people didn't go to the Netherlands because of Hostel? You heard that?
For Slovakia.
Slovakia. Okay.
People like then I watched a video on it, and like they show like a chart. I forget like the exact numbers, but you literally saw like a steep decline like that much when people saw it.
That's terrible. That's freaking terrible.
Because they Slovakia was like in such a bad light, because they do everything to like crap on the country in the movie too. Like they have like little gypsy children that like have nowhere to go. And I will say, I actually have the little gypsy children as a pro because they're hilarious. But but they like paint the country out to be so bad. And it's so unfortunate because I know that's not what they were going for. They were going for like when you're traveling somewhere, be careful, be sure you know what you're doing. Just don't go out being horny and go everywhere. Like the whole plot, like this if Hostel took place during November, it wouldn't have happened. That's all I'm saying. Like the movie also is so goofy at points.
Oh yeah.
And it just doesn't blend at all. Like and then they try to do like weird goofy jump scares, and then it's like, oh, now we're actually gonna like cut this dude's like kneecap open. And you're like, whoa, like you literally just made a penis joke like 2 seconds ago. And now you're doing this. Like it was too unfocused and trying to portray what its message that it wanted to portray. And unfortunately that crapped on the country. Yeah. So I really don't like that. But in terms of what it does well, I will say it does good in terms of being a torture porn. It does good in that. It is portrayed well. Our sound effects are very good. Very good gore effects. I always will remember Josh when he's in the chair and he's like, please let me go. And he's like, all right. And then he just cuts the back of his like ankle open. And like it literally looks like a backwards Pez dispenser. Like that one was disgusting. But
that's like that way of painting it really does get it. Yeah,
that was
to get the image across.
Yeah, that was very good. And apparently it had a like it has an alternate ending, which is way darker than the actual ending that they put in the movie. So like the ending that they have is like he just murders the guy who like told them about the place in this like restroom. In the alternate ending, which apparently was the real ending, the audiences were like, "Oh, you know, like change this, please."
Really?
So the original ending was Paxton sees the guy, but sees the guy's ends up kidnapping the guy's son, like child. And like
what?
I think if I remember correctly, it like shows Paxton like murder the child too. Yeah, like very, very
I can't
dark.
believe that was the original ending. They were like, yeah,
that's good.
Woo! That's what I'm going for. Yep, that's perfect. People love
like
this.
Our main character, who like they did a crappy job of setting him up to be our main protagonist, like our hero. He really becomes like a really terrible person if he does that, and it completely takes away from what little development they did for him.
Unequivocally evil, like a force.
They make him
like that's
pure evil.
Yeah,
but instead they were like, okay, we'll just have him get revenge. Which he does, and it's still like, like insane. I don't like Hostel. I think there's just so much that happens in it that's very stupid and very goofy and just doesn't make sense. And for the little parts that do pay off and are effective, they're not memorable anymore because you remember all of the bad or like you remember the torture parts of it.
Yeah, and you just don't like the characters as much. They just you don't like characters at all.
And I think that's the problem with the torture porn genre of horror. There barely any development between characters, and like the really bad ones, like that are like usually high on gore. You have no character development whatsoever. It just feels like meat to be like, prepared, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my thoughts on Hostel. It's really funny. I really went in on Hostel more so than I went in on the Blair Witch Project.
Okay, would you say Hostel is worse than Saw?
Oh, 100%. Because I would rather watch Saw than Hostel. Because I think the redeeming quality of Saw is the fact that it has a very interesting villain. It has a good plot twist. And it's interesting enough to keep you throughout the entire movie. Whereas with Hostel, there's just too much goofiness and unfocused. It was too unfocused throughout the entire thing to be good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's brutality for the sake of brutality, which maybe that's like some people, probably the same people who like I Spit on Your Grave do. I know we can get into that another time. We're probably running
kind
low
of
on
movies that if people request them a lot, like I'll watch them, but like if I'm just gonna watch them, I like kind of refuse to do it. Like I Spit on Your Grave is one of them. It like those type of movies tread a line for me. Like the like there's torture porn, which is like the subgenre, and then like the little tiny little section of like the rape revenge. It's just too real, and like if it's portrayed badly, like in terms of like bad acting, bad like it just makes it so much worse to like watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of refuse to like watch that category of horror.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I think I would rather watch the 1972 Last House on the Left before I would watch Hostel again.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's a better made movie than Hostel is, although how unfortunate and hard to watch it is.
I don't know if I agree with that one.
It's more so the fact of like
really
like at least with the Last House on the Left, there's more of a clear message to the movie and a clear idea of what they wanted to portray and like its significance.
Yeah,
but with Hostel,
and it's a good ending.
Yes.
I mean, the ending is a victorious ending. Well, yeah.
The ending is probably the best part about The Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, wow, we ended on a really sad note.
Yeah, this got really just
wow.
depressing.
It's really funny because we went from Pokemon to horror to laughing to rape revenge.
What is?
Oh man. Yep.
Wow, we had a full marathon this episode of the podcast.
We did. I do. I feel mentally tired after all of that.
Listen, in the words of the Fantastics.
Oh gosh.
Which I hope you guys have all seen. Without some hurt, the heart is hollow. Sorry, it was hard to say that with a straight face.
Right.
Okay. Wow, we really did go full circle. All right, guys. Well, yeah, I'll see you guys. All right.
Oh man. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, yeah, we're gonna leave
because I mean, it's funny because we have more of a marathon because the next podcast is going to be the Conjuring universe.
Oh.
On it, like literally.
Okay. Well,
I'm setting a timer for like 40 minutes because I don't know how long I could talk about the Conjuring universe without wanting to watch.
I can always talk.
It will be a short.
I can
always be a shorter one.
Crap on Conjuring. I can always crap on it.
Honestly, we might have to talk about it.
On the Conjuring universe.
Yeah.
Honestly, we might have to talk about it just to churn it out.
Yeah.
Right after, because honestly, it might just be easier to do that. But we're gonna end this episode first before we even do that.
Oh yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Bill. Love talking about this with you guys. Happy to be back.
Oh yeah.
Any final thoughts about what we talked about this episode? What you learned, stuff like that.
I would say I'm getting an idea in my head of most creepy, unintentionally creepy horror films. Unintentional horror films. Santa Claus. I think there's quite a few. I think you can argue that there's quite a few unintentionally horrific movies.
Oh yeah.
I think The Cat in the Hat was pretty
horrific,
but we can get into that later.
Yep. All right. Mine would be don't always trust the critics.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. I'm like, what movie is that?
Yeah.
Well, movies don't always trust the critics.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just
be a funny movie. A funny title.
I agree with you, Nick. Though, like, I think you should go in. Of course, we're gonna say our opinions, but I think you should form your own opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also say, usually don't watch the trailer for stuff because it spoils a lot, unfortunately. Yes. So if there's a movie you want to see that interests you, that has an interesting cover, I think just watch it. And if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. You love it. You love it. If you don't, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But on that note, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you again to Skippy. We're so glad to have you back. Love having you here. Excited for more content to be posted on your channel. Thank you again to Nick for composing our theme. Thank you again to Sam for producing it. Like I said, he will guest at some point, as well as Skippy will be a guest at some point.
Yeah.
We'll actually get to see his beautiful face. So
heck
we
yeah.
have that going for us.
My dreams.
I think that's basically it. I mean, I can't think of any other shout outs we have.
No, yeah, that's it. And hope everyone enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm staying warm.
Exactly. And like we end basically all of our shows now, remember, don't talk to strangers.